Alright, so today we're going to talk about functions. We're going to start by looking at what a function is, how it works, as well as some very specific examples of functions we use in our programs. We're going to follow that up by talking about user input and how we can use functions to get user input into our programs. So what is a function? Well, a function is essentially just a special type of method. Just like the methods we've been using already in our programs, a function performs a very specific task. The difference, however, is that unlike a method, a function returns a value for you to use in your program. This value can be specific to a particular object, much like the height of an object, the location of an object, and so on, or it can be something that applies to the entire world. So for example, it returns a mathematical answer, or it returns a string input from the user. All of the functions that you have available to you are found in the Details panel, right beside where the methods are. In Alice, a function can be used to determine a number of things. First, it can tell us the properties of a specific object. For example, what is the height of a snow woman? What is the bird's position in the world? It can also tell us the relationship of one object to another, so it could tell us, for example, the distance between the mummy and the pyramid, or is the spaceship above the ground or below the ground. It can tell us a current condition about our world or our environment, so what key on the keyboard has been pressed. And it can also tell us a mathematical equation, so what is the square root of 12, for example. So let's try making a program that is going to use a function. In this case, it's going to be a world with a coach in it, and it's going to tell us how wide he is with his arms outstretched. To do this, you have to have 4 steps. The first thing you need to do is your coach has to say my width is. Now this say method is a method we've already used in our programs, so you merely drag that tile over and put it in place. Next, you're going to start building into what he's going to say. So what we can do is use a string function, which is found in the world methods. And the string function we're going to use is called A joined with B. This particular function is used to join 2 separate strings together. We call that concatenation. So it allows the coach to say 2 things at the same time. Now when we want to specify what specific thing we want to say, we're going to use what as string. This is because the say method for any object can only say string values. So if we want to say the coach's width, which is a number, we have to convert it to a string first. So we use the what as string to allow us to do so. Finally, we're going to insert the coach's function, coach's width, so we can now say the coach's width as a string. So if we bring this all together in the Alice world, it'll look something like this. We'll select our coach, and we'll have our coach say my width is, and a space there so the number will be separate. We hit OK. Now I want to add more, so I go to the world, and I go to functions, and I can find the function under string A joined with B. So I drag that over top, and I'm just going to put in something for now, blah blah blah, as a placeholder. So you can see the coach is going to say my width is joined with blah blah blah. Okay, but I don't want him to say blah blah blah, I want him to say his width, so I have to say what as string. So I drag that over and drop it in place. And again, I'm going to put a place over here, so I'm just going to put the camera. But I don't want to say the camera as a string, instead I want to say what his width is. So now I have to click on the coach, go to the coach's width, drag it in, and now I'll say my width is the coach's width. If we play it, there we go, he says his width. So if we want to get user input, we're also going to be using a function. These are done using the ask user for functions found in the world functions. These are used to allow the user to input a value to be used by the program to do something. This is going to make our programs much more dynamic because now we can have the user actually interact with our programs and do something as a result of what the user says. Whenever we have an ask for from the user, we should always be storing those values into a variable so we can use them over and over again. So for example, let's make the coach greet the user by name. So we're going to get him to say hello to Ryan. So to do that, first we want to make a variable for username where we can store the name of the user. Next, we want to use the setValue method for the username, and we're going to set it to a string because the username is a string. It's going to be words. Okay. Again, we can put any text here for a temporary placeholder until we've filled in the value that we actually want. Now we're going to put in the world function called askUser4String. And when we do that, we have to provide it with the question that we are going to ask. In this case, what is your name? Finally, the next line of code we're going to have is to have the coach say hi, and again use that joined with function we had before, and the user's name. So again, let's take a look to see what this will look like. So after our coach has set his width, we're now going to create a new variable called username, and it's going to be a string, and we're going to set its value down here to whatever. But instead of being set to whatever, we're going to ask the user for, under world, we're going to ask the user for a string. And we're going to give a very specific question. We're going to have him say, what is your name? Once we've done that, we can now have our coach, under methods, the coach is going to say, hello. Actually, I'm going to get him to just say hi with a space. And then I'm going to go back again and we're going to join because we want to say more than one thing here. So we're going to do A joined with B. And he's going to say username. So now he's going to say, coach, say hi, username. So when I run my program, he's going to ask me for my name. My name is apparently Ryan. He says, hi, Ryan. And we're all set. That's it. That's all we're going to talk about today with regards to strings and functions and user input. We'll see you tomorrow when we can practice some of those skills.